today. We have some bulletin inserts. You pass them out to everybody. Outlines. Well, this is Palm Sunday, and I looked at the scripture of the triumphant entry, and I felt like we would read it earlier in the service, and then we're going to look at something that happened right before the triumphant entry. So, loving sinners and sordid sorts. You kind of get tongue-tied there, but that's what we're looking at. Zacchaeus this morning. What comes to mind when you think of a wicked person, somebody very evil? Probably draw from different areas. The name that jumped into my mind was Charles Manson. I mean, I was a young kid when I remember seeing him in the news and this and that. And people who got saved, who had been part of his little plan. But if you've seen pictures of him, he has this Nazi swastika etched into his forehead. And he's got these black, piercing black eyes. He's one evil guy. But he's not beyond God's grace, right? He's not beyond God's grace. Dr. James Dobson, he was able to talk with two different serial killers, go and meet with them and pray with them, Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer, before they left this earth. And they said that they gave their hearts to the Lord. So nobody's beyond God's grace. And this morning we're going to look at Zacchaeus, who was a tax collection agent. So this happened before Jesus went into Jerusalem, the triumphant entry. The flow of Luke 19 is the story of Zacchaeus, which we're going to look at shortly. Then Jesus tells a parable or the story of 10 servants and drives home a moral on that. Then there's a triumphant entry. And then Jesus, when he's in Jerusalem, he starts weeping over the destruction that's going to come. 70 AD, the temple was destroyed because of the rebellion of the Jews. And so he weeps over what's coming and the callousness of their hearts. And he also cleanses the temple, goes to the area where the Gentiles were, where they sold the sacrifices, and it was just corrupt. And he just got upset and knocked over stuff, kicked over stuff. But we're going to zero in on the story of Zacchaeus. What happened just before Jesus entered Jerusalem and received praise as the Messiah, the Son of God. In verse 1, Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. It's ironic that the name Zacchaeus, it means innocent. And he's like so far the other way. His name is innocent, and he's on the other side of the coin. I wonder if he laughed to himself different times, innocent. Yeah, right, not me. Knowing all that he was doing. How he was sucking his fellow Jews dry. After the Romans were done with him, then he got his cut also. So that's why the tax collectors were hated. They were thrown in with those sinners. And he was very rich, Scripture says. Very, very wealthy. Not bad to be rich, but his wealth was from dishonest gain. So that's where the problem started. In verse 3, he tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. He wanted to get a look. God, I believe, was stirring in his heart. Grace was moving in and drawing him towards God, towards Jesus. He was short in person, but more importantly, he fell short of the glorious standard of God. That was where the main problem was. Spiritual things. He was what the psalmist spoke of in Psalm 36:11. I love this verse. Sometimes I'll read the Bible in different translations, and one of them, the Message Bible, it's a paraphrase. It says, "Don't let the bullies kick me around. The moral midgets slap me down." And that's where he was morally, spiritually. I would assume being a tax collector was very prestigious in some ways, but also very lonely. Because all those people that you've been sucking dry, they hated you, and you kind of probably had to have some bodyguards or soldiers go with you. And then there were those who wanted your position. You wanted to suck people dry too, because they wanted money. So it's probably a very lonely position. And we know that his heart certainly was very lonely. There was a man who was an American Indian, Native American, and he got saved, and he described the old and the new natures this way. He said, "There's two dogs that live in me. One's the old dog. He's mean and vicious and hard and sinful. Then there's a new dog who walks after Christ." He said, "They're constantly fighting to have control of me. And which one wins? The one I feed the most. That's who wins." We believe God can get a hold of our hearts and sanctify, cleanse that dog that wants to take us the wrong direction, and feed the Spirit of God, the hound of heaven, if you want to go that way. But the sinful dog had been winning in Zacchaeus' life. And sometimes he wins in our lives. Paul talked about where Zacchaeus was at, Romans 5, 6 through 8. You see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anybody die for a righteous man, though for a good man, somebody might possibly dare to die. And then Romans 5, 8. But God demonstrates his own love for us while we were still sinners. Christ died for us. That verse never ceases to amaze me, never ceases to thrill my soul, and just comfort me. Before I was ready, grace was there. Jesus was there, thinking, willing, wanting to love. Who was going to take a bullet for Zacchaeus? Probably not many, if any. There are some who probably wanted to give him a bullet, or a spear or arrow. But he got in with the grace provision. That Jesus was extending God's grace, God's unmerited, undeserved favor. That before we were God thinking, it's always before we were God deserving, because we never are. You and I, we are just like Zacchaeus. We don't like to think that, he was that sinful guy, and he was extorting his neighbors and probably his family, but we're in the same league, the same boat. Ephesians 2, 1 through 3, the Apostle Paul. He said, "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins." Now it's interesting, in the original language, dead means dead. It's the same. Dead is dead, right? We don't like that because, that makes me look kind of bad. Dead in sin. But that's where we start out. And that's where we are when we do sinful things. Verse 2, "In which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world, and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit, who is now at work in those who are disobedient." All of us, Paul says, including himself. This is the guy who had done all the right things, and he'd gone to all the right schools, and he was trying to do all the good works, and he puts himself in that category. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our sinful nature and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath. So because of what we did, God had to be opposed to us. He had to be the judge standing against us. We don't like that. We don't want it. But that's the true picture of us as humans. Very unflattering picture of all of the human race. And this last interaction that Jesus has with a notorious sinner is before Jesus gets to Jerusalem, and it reminds us that that was why Jesus was going to Jerusalem, to die for the undeserved. Sometimes we kind of think, well, I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian maybe for a little bit or for a long time. And we almost start feeling like, I deserve this. I mean, I've been good. It's all by grace. It's all by a free gift that we can be in a relationship with God. There was a city of San Jose dos Campos, Brazil, and they have a remarkable facility. 20 years ago, the Brazilian government turned a prison over to 2 Christians. The institution was renamed Humaita, something like that, and the plan was to run it on Christian principles. With the exception of 2 full-time staff, all the work is done by the inmates. Families outside the prison adopt an inmate to work with during and after their term. Chuck Colson, he had visited the prison and made this report. He said, when I visited Humaita, I found the inmates smiling, particularly the murderer who held the keys, who opened the gates and let me in. Wherever I went, I saw men at peace. I saw clean living areas, people working industriously. The walls were decorated with Bible verses from Psalms and Proverbs. My guide escorted me to the notorious prison cell, once used for torture. Today, he told me, that block houses only a single inmate. As we reached the end of a long concrete corridor, he took the key in the lock, and he said, "Are you sure you want to go in?" And Chuck Colson said, "Well, of course. I've been in isolation cells all over the world." Slowly, he swung open the massive door, and I saw the prisoner in that punishment cell. It was a cross, a crucifix, beautifully carved by the inmates in that prison. The prisoner, Jesus, hanging on a cross, and the inmate said, "He's doing time for the rest of us." We would say he's done time. He did. He made the sacrifice. But they got it in their own way. Just how Jesus would take away Zacchaeus' sinfulness. From the beginning of the story to the end, there's a change, there's a transformation. In verse 4, so he, Zacchaeus, ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree beside the road, where Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. "Zacchaeus, quickly come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Not you there in the tree. Tax collector in the tree. Come on down. But Zacchaeus, and Jesus was personal, loving. He set the sin aside and saw the person. And we need to do that same. Set people's sin aside. If we know stuff, just give it to God. He was lovingly taking Zacchaeus back to the true meaning of his name, innocent. Somewhere, Zacchaeus may have longed for but never saw a way out of the pit of sin that he was in. And what did Zacchaeus say to him? Again? Or what did Jesus say to him? "Zacchaeus, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your house today." I must be a guest in your house today. And I asked myself, why? Why did he say it like that? Well, he knew that Zacchaeus needed to be saved from his state, from what he was doing. And if he didn't go, it wasn't going to happen. There was a small farming town. I'm guessing it might be Kansas. It says of Manhattan. Down the street from our house was a small, natured and friendly family with a large or strange habit. They never seemed to throw away anything. They filled their front porch with bags of trash, and it wasn't long before their yard and driveway were completely full of trash. Broken refrigerators, stoves, worn out sofas, lawnmowers, and a car that they didn't drive. And then one morning, there was a sign posted on their front door, and it read, "Moved next door." And they had moved next door, literally next door. And it seems the inside of their house had just gotten too full of clutter and trash that they had no choice but to move. And I thought, that's where Zacchaeus was at, spiritually. He couldn't live anymore with all that sin, and he saw Jesus, and it was just like a magnet, like he was just sucked to him and got up in that tree. He didn't care, I'm this very prominent tax collector. Somebody might see me up here acting goofy in the tree. He's looking for Jesus because Jesus was speaking to his heart. Verse 6, Zacchaeus quickly, I love that, fast. He climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. There is great excitement and joy in the presence of Jesus, isn't there? Amen? You agree? Yeah? A couple of you? Yeah? You think that Jesus is good? The disciples couldn't get enough of him. Sinful people loved to be around him. And that was only because they felt his love, his presence just coming out, and it was a welcome thing. There's a story about a 19th century agnostic, or somebody who didn't know if he could know God, Thomas Huxley. He promoted Darwinism and humanism, and he attacked Christianity. He was in Dublin, and he was rushing to catch a train, and he climbed aboard one of Dublin's famous horse-drawn taxis, and he said to the driver, "Hurry, I'm almost late, drive fast." And the driver was kind of nervous, and he just took off, and they're going, and they're going. And they've been going for a while when Huxley realized, hey, I didn't tell him where we're going. So it's like, he shouted to him. He said, "Do you know where you're going?" And the driver said, "No, Your Honor, I don't, but I'm going there fast." Well, sometimes that's us, isn't it? We're going, I'm just going to keep going like this. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, that was certainly Zacchaeus. His life was a mess, full of sin. Until Jesus came. Just keep going this way. I don't know. And then God's grace started drawing him, and whoa, there's something different. There's a new way. Verse 7. There's great things going on. But the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. You have the regular Jews who were upset. Jesus, really? You're going to this guy who took money from me, took money from my child? This child right here. How can you go with him? He's a scum. He's a slime ball. He's lower than a snake's belly. And then you have the religious folks. They heard the word sinner, and that was enough for them. Going to sinner, They believed that the sinful people were outside of salvation. They weren't going to be in God's kingdom. The Pharisees, Sadducees believed that pretty much just them and their crew, they were going to make it. Everybody else, it's kind of questionable. Verse 8, meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I never thought about that, but he might have heard what they're saying. And he just kept going. I'm not going to lose Jesus. He's here. He's in my house. I'm experiencing him. Yeah, I hear what they're saying. That's who I was. God's changing me. I feel warm fuzzies. I feel tingling inside. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. That's probably not much of a gift. It's probably those who have cheated, they will get. Jesus didn't come here and say, you must do restitution now. If he would have said something, Jesus might come and say, hey, those that you cheated, you might want to fix that. But it was just flowing out of Zacchaeus' heart. The heart that is set free from the bondage of sin knows that it needs to be all the good that it can. That's what Jesus was talking about in John 7:38. He who believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. And that's what we see here, coming out of Zacchaeus' heart. There's a story about a guy named Abe Mulkey. Have you ever heard of him? Abe Mulkey? I'd never heard of him. He's from Texas, but it must have been the other top of the state. Never heard of him. He was a Texas evangelist. Well, he went to an old-fashioned revival before he was saved. He was under deep conviction. And he went home. He's talking to his wife and said, "Mandy, what should I do? I'm lost. I'm miserable. But, he gained our possessions crookedly, and if I get religion and make restitution, we're not going to have shelter or home over our heads. The house, the ranch, every cow and sheep will be gone. That is what it'll take if I get religion. And if I don't get religion, I'm surely going to hell. What must I do, Mandy?" And Mandy said, "Abe, get religion." Well, thank the Lord for Mandy. Abe he went back and got religion, gave his heart to the Lord, and he immediately began to fix everything, and soon everything was gone. Not one thing was left. So Abe and Mandy, they're sitting under a tree somewhere eating cheese and crackers. And Abe looks across and says, "What about this, Mandy, the current situation?" And she said, "It beats hell, Abe, mighty bad." I can hear Zacchaeus, as he's giving the money back, realizing, I'm going to take a hit here, a big hit. It beats hell, mighty bad. Jesus responds to his situation and just what he says, what he's going to do, and which we believe he did. Verse 9, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham." Who claimed to be a son of Abraham? The Pharisees, right? We're in the line of Abraham. Definitely we're going to heaven because we're in the line of Abraham. And the book of John shows all their ideas that they had, why they should be better than other people. But here Jesus says, here's a true son of Abraham. And he says salvation has come to this house. Now, the New Testament is written in Greek and then translated into English. But when they would have been talking, they would have said it either in Hebrew or Aramaic, however they did. And the phrase that they would have said in Hebrew, when he said, "Salvation has come to this home today," literally, it would have been Yeshua has come to this home today, which is the Hebrew name for Jesus. The Lord has come to this home today. I just thought that was pretty neat. The Lord has come to this house. Now, I also thought this was neat. The Chinese character for the word righteousness is pretty interesting. It's composed of two separate characters. A person standing under a lamb. That's the characters for righteousness. A person under a lamb. When the lamb is placed directly above me, it becomes the character of righteousness. It's a helpful picture of the grace of God. Between me, the sinner, and God, the Holy One, there's an interposed faith in the Lamb of God. By virtue of his sacrifice, he has received me on the ground of faith, and I have become righteous in his sight. Zacchaeus, sinful Zacchaeus, we probably don't know the half of all they did then, was righteous now with God. He got the check mark. He was justified. And then verse 10, powerful verse. Luke 19, verse 10. "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save those who are lost." That's what Palm Sunday is about. That's what Easter is about. It's not just some fanciful story for us, for the church, for the world. It's about salvation, right? It's about the lost, and we fit in that category at one time. And I heard the story, found the story. Christmas 1980, this person was 9 years old. She said, "My mom, who was a secretary in a small 3-person company, got a Christmas bonus. a trip for her and my brother and me to Disneyland. Plane and hotel, all covered, even some cash. Her boss was not a Christian, but he had a spirit of generosity. We got off the plane in Los Angeles and immediately felt scared and overwhelmed, a little lost, because that was their first trip. They were from Canada, and they were going to Disneyland, California. So, as they were coming through customs, there was a man holding a sign that said Grants. And the mom walked over and said, "That's my name, but I'm sure you're not looking for a mom and 2 kids." And he said, "Wendy?" And she said, "Yeah." He said, "It's you I'm looking for. I'm here to guide you through the airport, help you find your motel, and make sure that you have everything that you need." 3 Canadians feeling lost and overwhelmed in the middle of the LA airport until the guy steps forward and says, "Follow me, I'll lead you." And they said, they took them, found their luggage, got on the bus, took them to Anaheim, and exactly where they needed to go, and they got off. And that's what Jesus did. He came to guide the lost towards him like Zacchaeus draw the lost. So remember who the lost are. Us. We've just been found. But when we think of lost, we need to look back and remember what Jesus did for us. And anytime Satan wants to put pride in there, no. I'm thankful for the grace that has saved me, Jesus cleansing me from my sins, forgiving me. You know, it's interesting. The Greek word for lost, I was just looking at it, and it's like, wow. It means utterly destroyed, wholly destroyed. That's the soul of a sinner, a sinful person, lost. They're walking dead like a zombie in this world, and if they don't get out of that state, they're going to keep going forever in that state. Eternal destruction and hell. We were all on that path, just like we looked at in Ephesians chapter 2. The purpose of Jesus' sacrifice and His grace given to us is not to just feel better than sinners in sordid sorts, but to be thankful that you're forgiven. Right? Be thankful every day. Be thankful. Be thankful that I'm forgiven. And because I'm forgiven and I'm thankful, I want others to be able to be there. To get out from being under the pain of sin. You know how painful sin is? Are you thankful that you are forgiven this morning?
Amen.
And who are our Zacchaeuses that are watching? Who knows how many times he was standing on the back of the crowd, having maybe, he's kind of disguised, he's listening to Jesus, because he didn't feel, I'm a sinful guy. And he had heard, and he was watching. How many people are watching us? And they know, I need something more. There's something going on in this person, in their life. It's different. And God's drawing them towards us. They're watching. Waiting for salvation to be shared with them. I'm going to close with this story, and then I have a video clip to actually close the service with. My grandfather, Raymond West. Well, my grandmother, Hazel, she was in the hospital. I forgot what had happened, if she had fallen or what, but she was in her 80s. And my grandfather was in his 80s. And so they're at the hospital. Well, the pastor comes, Pastor Tim Rowe, the pastor who I got saved under. And he's ministering to my grandma, praying with her, and reading scripture, and loving on her. And then he's talking to my grandfather, who's very, very, very proper, but he didn't reveal a lot, didn't share a whole lot. I mean, he loves sports. He was really good at sports. Even as a senior citizen, he'd go to the senior center and he'd clean up, he'd come home with all these awards and trophies every time he went. But Pastor Tim said, "Ray, have you ever asked Jesus into your heart? Become your Lord and Savior?" And my grandfather said, "No, Tim, I've never done that, but I've been waiting for somebody to ask me." And he was in his 80s. Remember I said he was in his 80s? From the time he was a kid, nobody had asked him if he wanted to come to Jesus. And he was just waiting. He said, "I was just waiting. Nobody asked me." I mean, he heard other people and he could do it, but nobody had asked him. And now Tim asked him, Pastor Tim asked him, and he accepted Christ. And it was just a great moment in our family history. And who are our Zacchaeuses? Who are our Zacchaeuses who are watching us that want in? They might not know they want in, but they want in to the fold. Let's watch this video clip and then we will close.
The next day, the great crowd that had gathered heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." This crowd praised him. They celebrated his miracles and with great expectation told everyone about him. But they did not know him. They were waiting for someone who would rule with strength and might, but he came as a humble servant. They wanted him to finally bring their people glory, but he wanted to change them so their lives would bring God glory. They were expecting a general who would crush their enemies, but he came saying, "Love your enemies." They thought he could offer them deliverance from their oppressors, but he came offering deliverance from sin. This crowd would soon realize that Jesus wasn't going to be what they wanted, and they turned on him before they ever realized he was what they needed. So as they yelled, "Crucify!" Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you a king?" Jesus answered, "I am not that kind of king." His kingdom isn't what you see here. It won't be established by chaos and war. His kingdom is in our hearts. His kingdom is truth. His kingdom is goodness. His kingdom is righteousness. He is the humble king, the king of healing, the king of forgiveness, the king of love. Today, we lift our voices. We cry, "Hosanna, save us. Save us from our sin. Come dwell in our hearts. Hosanna, we worship you. Jesus Christ, our King."
Amen. Would you stand with me? Here to close. That's why we're here. Not to be churchy, not to just get together with a bunch of Christians, but to glorify, to lift up the name of Jesus, worship the King. Let's be challenged. Who are our Zacchaeus? And who's out there watching us? They don't have hope. I mean, they're just like trying to figure out what to do. But they may be out there on the fringe watching us, looking for hope. And so maybe that scares you, then pray back. Pray, "God, help me to know what to do, to say." Maybe not to say, just to live. Father God, we just come before you. We believe that the Christian faith is not just something to observe and to go through the motions and just not like a club. It's a living experience. It's with the relationship with the living God through Jesus. And you care about people and you want to reach people. You want to reach people like Zacchaeus, and we know we're not better than they are. We're saved by grace, a free gift. Nothing we did. All the things we do, we're just responding to what you say we do. So we can never get a check mark for all the good things we do. We just get a check mark because of what you did, Jesus. So we're thankful for that. And we love you. And just pray that you go with us and help us to take this with you, take you with us and take this with us, and just maybe look over some other things. Look over Ephesians 2 and just be reminded of who we are without you and how thankful we need to be. Lord, we just pray you protect us, give us a great day, and bring us back again. In Jesus' name, amen.